How you doing? Welcome or welcome back to the second half at this hour. I'm Leslie Marshall, your host, and joining us for the second half is Director of Advocacy for the 63 unions and 15 million members of the AFL-CIO, Mr. Jody Calemine. Now, Jody serves as Chief Lobbyist and Director of Government Affairs for the AFL-CIO, so as you can imagine, he's probably never home and on the Hill an awful lot and has to carry a couple of pairs of shoes because that walk up there is a heck of a climb. With an illustrious career spanning nearly 25 years in government and the labor movement, he previously served as a Senior Fellow and Director of Labor and Employment Policy at the Century Foundation. He brings a wealth of experience and steadfast commitment to champion the needs of workers. Now, the website, got to check it out, a lot of information there for the AFL-CIO is aflcio.org. Their handle on Blue Sky is at aflcio.org. On Facebook, Instagram, and X at AFL-CIO. And Jody, his handle on Blue Sky is at guerino.bsky.social. That's at guerino.bsky.social. Jody, thank you for joining us and welcome. I know you're very busy, and I appreciate you. I appreciate all you do, certainly all that the AFL-CIO does for the majority of workers in this country, those millions that we just pointed to. I think it's disgusting as an American that we tout ourselves as the richest nation in the world and as a leader in democracy and freedom, yet we can't feed our own people who work within our own government. And that is what's happening, right? I mean, I'm not being dramatic. I'm not being a fearmongerer here. I'm certainly not running for office. Federal workers are turning to food banks as the government shutdown continues. And we're hearing from food banks, not just inside the Beltway, but nationwide, about how many more people than they have food for those people at these banks. Correct?
That's right. And first of all, thank you for having me. I really appreciate all that you're doing to raise awareness around the country about what's going on inside DC right now. It's important that people understand this. We are now in the fifth week of a government shutdown. These federal workers have not been paid since September. We're in the, I'm sorry, that's the fourth week of the shutdown. The fifth week, I'm sorry, it's the fifth week of the House Republicans being on vacation. They've been out of town, not coming to work.
And they're getting paid.
So they are getting paid.
Yeah.
They're the only people in the federal government right now who are getting paid and refusing to work. We have federal workers who are being forced to work without pay, and federal workers who want to work but cannot come to work because they've been furloughed. All of them are going without any paychecks, and you're right, they are lining up at food banks right now.
Again, this is 2025. There's no excuse for this. Nobody should be lining up at food banks. Heck, nobody should go to bed hungry in this country ever. We have so much wealth concentrated, sadly, in such a small percentage of people. And you are right, day 28 of this shutdown, federal workers have not been paid. And it doesn't help when you have, and I don't want to make this political, but it is political because when you have, I mean, this administration has demonized federal workers. I have never seen anything like it in my life. I'm not 100 years old, but I'm certainly not 18. And I just don't understand because what do people in the United States, how do people in the United States think the federal government operates if you don't have people operating it? I mean, when you go to the airport, hello, TSA are government workers, air traffic controllers are government workers. I mean, that's just two examples where your life can be directly or indirectly impacted. So I just don't understand why anybody in America would be cheering for another person to be out of work and not be able to feed their family. It's inhumane.
Right. It's just the latest of the assaults that have come from this administration aimed at our civil servants in this country. They do protect our planes as they fly through the air. They protect our food. They inspect our food. They deal with natural disasters. They help keep track of the weather. All of these things that they do to serve us every day so that we can live normal lives. They are out there doing day in and day out. They really care about their jobs. But since the beginning, there's been a plan by Trump's own director of Office of Management and Budget, Russ Vought, to traumatize. That's the word he uses. Traumatize federal workers. And so over the course of the past 9 months, 10 months, we have seen workers being unlawfully fired in mass. We have seen the single biggest act of union busting in American history being committed by this president, when 1 million federal workers lost the right to bargain, and hundreds of thousands have seen their contracts get canceled at will, so they don't have union contracts anymore. And now they are being forced to work without pay or furloughed altogether without pay and turning to food banks. It has been trauma, but it's intentional trauma inflicted by this administration on this workforce.
And there's just so many things here. When you say you want to traumatize federal workers, I don't want to sound like an old lady, but an old lady's no longer with us. My grandmother used to say, "It chafes my hide." That used to be her line when she was like, ticked off. And it chafes my hide when, and you know this because you're a lobbyist, you see this practically every day. When these legislators walk down the hall in the House and the Senate, they have a posse around them, like some of the celebrities out here in Hollywood have security and assistants and, everybody who does everything for them, right? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Right.
They walk down the hall and they've got 6, 10, I think sometimes 12 people. I remember when I met Hillary Clinton, I met her prior, but when I met her face to face, I was in the Senate. There was some kind of a cocktail hour without booze, no joke. And I turned around and there she was, and I'm 5'2" and she's 5'3" and she had on flats. And she had nobody around her. And I said, where's your gang? And she goes, I ran away from there. But because they walked down the hall with all these people. None of those people are fired. You notice that? For some reason, you need 7, 10, 12 people walking around you. That's not government waste, not to mention their own salaries. And these people in the House and the Senate, not all of them, but most of them are very wealthy and they could afford to go without a paycheck. But these federal workers cannot. And we forget it's not just the worker, it's their families.
That's
It's
right.
they're not going to that mom and pop coffee shop on the corner to get coffee on their way to work. So, especially in the tri-state, DC, Maryland, Virginia area, the Beltway and the surrounding area, that's hurting other businesses, other families, other communities. I mean, this has a rippling effect. There is no good in it. You can't find positive in it anywhere. And these aren't the kind of massive cuts, that are needed. Sure, cut government waste, but cutting people off from providing food or paying that copay for that kid that, has to go to the, ER because he got pneumonia during this flu season. That again, that's to me, that's not American. That's anti-American.
Right. And when you look at what the administration is deciding to spend money on right now, it's incredible. This isn't like a normal shutdown.
Right.
Normally, when there's a government shutdown, the only people who are working are those who are essential to the protection of life and property. So, of course, you have the air traffic controllers right now working round the clock to keep our skies safe. But the Trump administration has kept people working who are essential to their priorities, and is spending money that is essential to its priorities. So while federal workers and their families are going to food banks in order to get a meal, right now we're spending $40 billion on a loan to Argentina, or $172 million on 2 private jets for Kristi Noem. That's where the money is being spent. It is an abnormal shutdown in that respect. He is continuing to operate the government the way he wants to operate it. And part of that has included the fact that while he should be releasing funds right now to the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, SNAP, food stamps, he is not. And
Oh, and by the way, he said he had contributions to pay for the military, right? He has contributions to pay for the ballroom. Why on earth, if you can get people to give you millions of dollars for a gaudy gold glittered ballroom, why wouldn't you say to them, fund the food banks?
right, no, that's not his priority. His priority is a ballroom, not feeding the hungry. And we're about to have a serious hunger crisis on top of a massive healthcare crisis come this weekend when the open enrollment period begins for the ACA marketplaces. We're going to see, this is part of the reason the government is at loggerheads on how to proceed with funding. Democrats are pressing to extend the tax credits for the ACA, and Donald Trump doesn't want to address it, is refusing to talk about it. And what that means is that on Saturday, when this open enrollment period begins, people are going to have massive sticker shock. There are 22 million people relying on these tax credits being extended in order to afford health insurance. And I saw today, or maybe it was yesterday, there is a couple, or according to the Department of Insurance in Pennsylvania, a 60-year-old couple in York, Pennsylvania that makes $82,000 a year. They currently pay $7,000 in annual premiums on the ACA. Come Saturday,
that's insane.
Saturday, they will pay $35,000 a year. That's how much these prices are about to go up, and it's 22 million people.
And then what happens? Oh God, we're going to talk more about this after the break. Hang tight, Jody. Jody Calemine, Director of Advocacy for the 63 unions and 15 million members of the AFL-CIO. Follow him on Blue Sky at Guerino, GUERINO.bsky.social. Follow the AFL-CIO on Facebook, Instagram, and X at AFL-CIO. Check out their website, AFL-CIO.org, and their handle on Blue Sky at AFL-CIO.org. Back with Jody, back with you right after this. Don't go away. Can you imagine? We are back. I am talking with Jody Calemine. Jody is Director of Advocacy for the AFL-CIO. Please follow him on Blue Sky at Guerino.bsky.social. Follow the AFL-CIO on Blue Sky at AFL-CIO.org. Follow them on X, Facebook, and Instagram at AFL-CIO, and AFL-CIO.org is the website. Jody, I hear your passion, and that's because you're a good person. Really, you care about other people. And our elected officials should care, if not about you or me, at least their own constituents in their own states. And some of these people, and I don't want to get political about this, but this is political right now. There are very poor rural communities in the United States that are in red states, in deep red districts. And these people are going to hurt even more than that couple. I mean, and you know, I want to get back to that, what you said before the break. This couple pays $7,000 a year. They're going to have to pay $35,000 a year. Unless they have some kind of a health care fund that they've put aside, which some people do, but most people haven't, they're probably going to have to go without insurance. Let's talk about what happens when that happens. My husband's a physician. I know this well. My husband's a surgeon. I know this well. When people come into the ER, they are treated because of legislation that was signed during the Reagan administration that states that you can't turn somebody away because they don't have insurance. You can send them to a clinic if it's not an uber emergency, like, oh, you have a tiny fever. But you're having a heart attack, you're bleeding on the floor, your bone's sticking through your flesh, you're going to get treated. And you're not getting paid. And people think the federal government pays. It's usually written off by the hospital, and all of that is public information people can Google to their heart's content. So what happens is then what happens? The hospitals, are just going to be beyond capacity. You have rural hospitals closing already with the different, cuts. This is, when you talk about a domino effect, the domino effect here, I shudder. You have people on the one hand that, like you said, we're going to have people starving. That starvation is going to lead to them going to the hospital. They certainly aren't going to have insurance or have those premiums. Then you have older people that can't afford those premiums, whose bodies are more vulnerable than somebody who's younger and healthier. That's just our anatomy. And they're going to be going. Then you're going to have not enough people in the hospital. Seriously, this sounds like an apocalyptic movie that is really coming real life, where there will be people who are outside of hospitals dying because the hospital simply can't get to everybody. I'm not trying to make this sound like a Hollywood horror film, but this is really our future if we don't do something about this now. And this will be our future if we don't do something about this now.
That's right. What you're describing is why everybody, even those who are not on the ACA marketplace, should care about this, because what you're describing is a whole bunch of uncompensated care. You're right. People won't be able to afford these insurance premiums. They won't have health insurance. Something will happen. They will end up in an emergency room. They will have to be cared for. And then that will not get paid for unless the providers, the hospitals, the doctors, the whole system raises prices on everybody else to make up for this loss. And so we will all of us will be paying more for health care. on top of these lines that you're describing, but we'll all be paying more. The AFL-CIO put out a report several weeks ago showing that if these tax credits are not extended to the ACA marketplace participants, the average person in a healthcare plan will pay in an employer-provided healthcare plan, the kind that union members have, many workers have. We will each be paying $485 more per year per person. There's at least that much of a hit on everybody else once these premiums skyrocket. And you can expect that somebody who's facing, like the couple I described in York, Pennsylvania, a bill for health insurance premiums alone that takes up more than a third of their total annual income, that they're either going to drop their insurance or the only reason they will keep it is because they are desperately ill themselves. And so the people that remain in that system end up being the sickest people, which then causes the premiums to rise even more. It ends up being a kind of death spiral. There's a reason why they didn't extend the tax credits in the one big beautiful bill over the summer. When they had a chance, they were extending all kinds of tax credits for the rich, but they didn't do this one. And that's because by denying people these tax credits, it's a backdoor way of destabilizing these marketplaces and ending Obamacare, which is what a majority of the Republican caucus in the House and the Senate is gunning for.
Right. And what kills me, for 15 years they've been saying this, and for 15 years they've not had anything that is an alternative. And remember what former President Barack Obama said, they will call it Obamacare, if it fails, and now they're trying to demonize that program that
Yes,
millions are on, and millions could not have any kind of health insurance without it. So I don't understand the demonization of it. Um and also, when you don't, don't, I always say to my kids, you told me the problem, let's come up with a solution. If Republicans feel that Obamacare, anyone feels that Obamacare is the problem, where's the solution? There is no solution. You have to have an alternative. They're not talking about Medicare for all, like Bernie Sanders, AOC, and some on the left. I mean, you have to have a solution to the problem. And if Obamacare is not the problem, but if they want to paint it as the problem, again, you have to have a solution. I want to talk about the workers and the business owners and the corporations with regard to healthcare. We have people out there that said, I reposted something saying, what kind of a human being are you? Who said, you don't have healthcare. Get up and get a job. 44% of companies in the United States, employers in the United States, do not provide healthcare. That's close to half, right? So people have to buy their own health care. If they can't afford it, they have to go to some kind of an exchange like Obamacare. So if you have these huge increases, how is that percentage going to change? How many companies, especially smaller companies that only have 100 employees, not hundreds or thousands of employees, how many of those companies are going to say, come January, screw this. I'll go out of business if I keep providing health care. And they're going to sit down and say to their employees, I'm sorry, you have a choice. You can keep working, right? And I'm going to give you a little bit of a raise, but I can't provide your health care anymore. That's
that's
what's
right.
going to happen in many of these small businesses throughout America. Because if the people can't afford to pay for their own insurance premiums when their employer is not providing insurance, how are the employers going to be able to afford that? And by the way, even the big corporations that can afford, big corporations don't want to get rid of their, 7-digit golden parachutes. So they're going to cut healthcare benefits, either the type of benefit or the benefit altogether.
Yeah, we can expect exactly a whole lot of that happening if these tax credits aren't extended. You're right that they're going to price out small businesses from providing health insurance, and even the large businesses. We can expect big union employers, when we go to bargain our next contract with these skyrocketing prices, we can expect the employer to be crying poverty. We can't give you that pay raise, or we need to shift more of the healthcare costs onto the employees because of these prices.
Let's talk about, we talked about problems. Let's talk about, there are some solutions out there. We already know there was a solution to fund 50% of SNAP that the president didn't want to do. So his minions on the Republican Party just followed in suit. But the AFL has been doing a great job. My friend, your president, Liz Schuler, I told her, I said, she's asleep. I mean, she's
No, she
everywhere.
does not.
And as she should be. I think it's just, awesome. Especially being a woman, I gotta say, you gotta show the guys you gotta work a little harder to, like for everybody to go, okay, I'll give you your props, right? But AFL-CIO demands that lawmakers stop playing political games, pay all impacted workers during the shutdown. Day 28 of the shutdown, 1.4 million federal workers, million federal contractors. People forget about that, right? You got a million
Right.
more people who are contractors through the federal government. They've missed at least one paycheck if they, you get paid monthly. They're going to soon miss another if Congress fails to act. Now, you guys sent a letter to senators and demanding they stop the games, pass the legislation, provide immediate relief, and pay every worker impacted during the shutdown. And there are two things that can be done right away: True Shutdown Fairness Act and Military and Federal Employee Protection Act. Talk to us about those.
Yeah, so one of them is introduced by Senator Van Hollen of Maryland. It would pay everybody, the federal workers, the federal contractors, and the military, their regular paychecks, plus all the back pay that they've missed since the start of the shutdown. That would start immediately if that were passed. He offered it on the Senate floor last week, and Republicans objected. Senator Peters of Michigan offered the other bill, which doesn't provide regular paychecks, but it would immediately provide everybody with the back pay they're owed so far, with presumably another segment of back pay at the end of the shutdown. That was also rejected. Our goal is to get everybody paid and to make sure workers are not the pawns in this fight. So far, what we've seen from the administration has been pitting workers against one another. It's the federal workers versus the healthcare workers. On this ACA tax credit, if that's not extended, we can expect about 154,000 healthcare jobs to be lost as a result of the change. We've seen them cut funding for clean energy projects, which is going to affect hundreds of thousands of construction jobs across the country, all blaming this shutdown on these actions, which actually the shutdown has nothing to do with this. But they are trying to pit workers against one another as we fight for the scraps that are left after the one big beautiful bill.
And they're unlawfully withholding the back pay from the furloughed workers. They're threatening to illegally fire at least 10,000 more. And I want to read your quote. You said in your letter to senators, and this is true and powerful: "While the paychecks have stopped, the bills have not. Rent needs to be paid. Mortgage payments are due. Groceries must be bought." What you're doing, Jody, is you're asking them to be human beings. And we should, as people, do this for each other and as Americans both. Jody, thank you for being with us. I'd love to have you back on the show. I know you're busy, but I'd love to have you on another time. Jody Calemine, Director of Advocacy for the 63 unions and 15 million members of the AFL-CIO. The website, check it out, aflcio.org. On Blue Sky, their handle, follow them there at aflcio.org. Their handle on Facebook, Instagram, and X is at AFL-CIO. And Jody's handle on Blue Sky is at Guerino, Guerino.bsky.social. Thank you.
Thanks, Leslie.